Everyone, good morning. Today is 20th of September and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, in the today's video, we'll be taking up the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper, all the articles along with the background as well as the detailed way forward we'll be taking in the articles. Meanwhile, I would like to tell you that you can download this explainer PDF. In this explainer PDF, I have provided the notes of all the articles that I am going to take. So you can download this PDF from the Telegram channel, and the link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box. Moreover, you can visit the Telegram and search there Thinking Palette by Sahil. Fine. Now, let's start with the discussion. First of all, let's take the overview of the entire newspaper, and by the overview we'll be able to understand that which articles are important and which articles are not important. Now, the first article, it talks about the death penalty. So guys, what has happened, the Supreme Court has basically referred to a constitution bench with respect to the reforms that can be brought into the death penalty. We'll see this particular article with respect to exam, a very important article. Then other political articles etc have been given, not important for the examination. Okay, so the now after that the cinema theaters are being opened into the Kashmir. Okay, and all such things are there, not very much important for the examination. Then guys, moving on, after that the city section, the regional issues, political issues, advertisements and all these things have been given, not important for the exam. So directly we'll be reaching to the editorial section, and into the editorial, the first article talks about the hijab case and the essential practice doctrine. So with respect to the secularism in India, we'll see this particular article. After that, it is the people of Pakistan who are suffering. We'll see this particular article as how India needs to act as per the neighborhood first policy, knowing the killer. Now this particular article guys again talks about the Supreme Court's death, basically Supreme Court as basically reforms into the death penalty has been suggested. That particular thing will be discussed. Then the best of four. So guys, it talks about the Bajrang Punia's performance in the wrestling. Fine. With respect to the exam, much of a substance is not given in the article. Then moving on, from Lodha to N.V. Raman, the Chief Justice of the Modi era. So guys, we'll see this particular article also with respect to the exam. Okay, GS paper number 2. Then moving on, Scandinavian social democracy. So guys, recently the elections have been conducted into the Sweden, and by the change that has come into the Sweden, we'll see that how the Scandinavian countries have been so much on forefront on the human development indicators. All those things we'll see in this particular article. After that, moving on, the significance of Ethereum's merge of the for the future of cryptocurrencies. Now understand this particular thing guys, that when we talk about the cryptocurrencies, now we know this particular thing that cryptocurrencies have become more and more acceptable. That is a thing that's going on. But see, there are many of the technical details that are coming. Now this is a cache article. Now the cache article, when we talk about it, it contains much of the technical computer related issues that come. Now guys, this particular talks about basically ethereums which have carried a merge. So Ethereum, it is a platform, and Ethereum runs the cryptocurrency known by the ether. So they have changed their methodology. So that thing has been discussed here. Now understand one thing I want to tell you here is that guys, when we talk about the cryptocurrencies, these cryptocurrencies have been criticized for two particular things. Number one, that they are not regulated by any central bank. There is no basically these things are not backed by the gold, or they are not backed by the sovereign guarantee. So these assets are very risky. Second thing is that guys, you know that these cryptocurrencies are mined by solving the complex algorithms, programs, mathematical operations, etc. So when the mining of these cryptocurrencies is done, there is a huge computer capacity that's needed, and it uses a lot of electricity, and it is provided that the electricity that is being consumed by these cryptocurrencies, okay, for the mining which is going on, which is the consuming electricity, it is leading to a very big carbon footprint in the world. Okay, so that's a kind of a very big issue that comes when we talk about the cryptocurrencies. Then moving on, after that guys, the political articles, regional issues, Supreme Court panel meets Lakhimpur Kheri rape victims. Now these particular articles are not important. However, here one very important article has come, that is Election Commission seeking restriction on the cash donation. So with respect to the electoral reforms, we'll see this particular article. After that guys, moving on, Chhattisgarh High Court nixes quota law. We'll see this particular article also with respect to the examination. Then guys, after that, the page number 11 has contained the political news. Okay, now these political news are not important for your examination, so need to avoid them completely. Then moving on, After that, no negotiation at the cost of food security, says Tomar at agricultural conference. Fine. Now, guys, basically it has been provided that food is an essential fundamental right. Okay, and in that particular thing, the rights of the farmers, okay, and all such kind of a thing cannot be ignored, cannot be compromised. However, with respect to the UPSC, much substance is not given in the article. Just heading can be read. Then moving on after that, can state impose limit on students' fundamental right in classroom? So this article again talking about the essentiality practice. We'll see this particular article also. Unfair to force women to choose between religion and education. This article also I have integrated into the editorial section, so it will be seen. Then guys, moving on, world leaders say goodbye to Queen Elizabeth. Now see, you don't need to follow the the funeral of Queen Elizabeth and all such kind of a things. Line by line, every day's development are not important for examination. However, after the passing away of Queen Elizabeth, whatever the important things are there, we have already seen. But no need to over follow this particular article. Fine. Then guys, moving on, basically the evolutionary details, Taliban releases American veteran, okay, these kind of things have been given, not important for the exam. Then coming to the business page, so oil ministry's windfall tax review has been mentioned. We'll see that what is this windfall tax review and all those kind of things. We'll be seeing that. Government starts sale process for airport engineering units of erstwhile Air India, of erstwhile AI, okay, Air India. Now moving on in the, however, guys, see these kind of trends, fine corporate trends, and these kind of an issues actually are not very much needed for the exam. And I am very much expecting that you have also seen the GS3 paper that has come this year, as well as the GS3 papers that have come in the past. So you need to always understand that academic issues are something that we need to looking more about, and the corporate trends and so much of changing data. For example, the numbers with respect to the inflation every month, the numbers with respect to the IAP every other month is not very much important. Okay, and then we have the sports page. Okay, so guys, we take overview every day just in order to serve one purpose, that you should learn an art to know which articles are to be read and which articles are not to be read too much. Only headings are sufficient. So I hope that you are learning this particular skill. Now moving on, and let's discuss all the relevant articles one by one in the detail. Okay, now in every class we start with the GS quote. In this GS quotation, we take a quote that can be used in one of the our UPSC paper. So today we'll take the quote from the Mahatma Gandhi ji. Now Mahatma Gandhi ji says that the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing to solve would suffice to solve most of the world's problem. Now what we are doing right now, what we are doing and what we are capable to do, there is a lot of difference between these two things. Now guys, understand this particular thing. We have the capabilities to solve most of the most complex problems of the world, including the poverty, including the hunger. But sometimes we don't fully utilize our capabilities, and when we don't fully utilize our capabilities, the downtrodden people, the poor people, the vulnerable people, they always face injustice. So if everybody fulfill their capability and will perform at the peak of their capabilities, then most of the problems of the world will be fulfilled. And how and what is needed, how you can perform at your capabilities, only first you need to have intention. Okay, so this is a very good quotation. This is a very good quotation, can be used in the GS paper number 4, ethics. Okay, so again I'll read the quotation. The difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. So you need to leverage your capabilities. Okay, so that is all guys about the quotation. And now let's take the first article. Now let's take the first article. Okay, now guys, the first article talks about that death penalty, Supreme Court moots fair hearing, knowing the killer. Now both of these particular articles have been on one particular topic only, that is the reforms that are needed into the death penalty. Now in that particular capacity, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, fine, death penalty reforms. GS paper number 2, death penalty reforms. Is it clear? Death penalty reforms. Now let's first of all, before going in this particular article guys, some of the basic things I want to tell you. Now guys, whenever we talk about the punishments, now punishment has been considered as an essential pillar of justice. Punishment has been considered as an essential pillar of justice. Now guys, in fact, when we talk about the idea of justice, which has been given by Aristotle, the idea of justice that has been given by Aristotle says that there could be two dimensions of justice. One is the distributive justice, and other is the retributive justice. Now, distributive justice means giving everybody their fair share of resources. Okay, for example, you are the citizen of India. You have a fair right on all the resources of the country. So you should be given those rights. That is the distributive justice. And then the second is the retributive justice. Now, guys, when we talk about the retributive justice entails the punishments. It entails punishment. So if somebody has done something wrong, then that particular thing is also to be settled by a punishment. So we have the retributive idea of punishments, retributive idea of justice, and into the retributive idea of justice, in the retributive idea of justice, we get the punishment. Now guys, when we talk about the punishments, basically understand one particular thing, that one particular form of punishment, that is a death penalty, it has been controversial in the entire world. Now there are the different viewpoints that whether the death penalty should be given or whether the death penalty should not be given. Now particularly if I give you the example of the countries of European Union, now the European Union countries have abolished the death penalty, and even if a country wants to become the member of the European Union, they have to abolish the death penalty first of all. Okay, however, when we talk about India, with respect to the death penalty, neither we have a completely abolished death penalty. Now you see, we have extreme examples. European Union, death penalty cannot be given in any circumstance. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, death penalty is given very liberally. However, India is in between. India neither gives death penalty very liberally, nor we have abolished. We follow the rarest of the rare case doctrine. We follow the rarest of rare case doctrine in the matters of death penalty. Now, first of all, I'll tell you little bit more about what this rarest of the rare case doctrine is all about, because whenever you talk about the death penalty, if you don't know this particular judgment, then you cannot write the meaningful answers. Okay, so this doctrine I have mentioned in the notes also. Okay, so guys, the Supreme Court has actually propounded the rarest of the rare case doctrine in two of the judgments, landmark judgments. Number one is the Bachchan Singh case of 1980, and the second one is the Machi Singh versus State of Punjab case. So in these two cases, rarest of the rare doctrine has been propounded. Now, according to this particular doctrine, it says that death penalty is an absolute and a unique exception. It cannot be rule. You cannot give death penalty in every case. The death penalty can only be given in the case, it has been said that death penalty should only be awarded when the life imprisonment is not an option and it is not an alternative. Okay, so sometimes very heinous crimes happen. For example, rape leading to death. For example, what happened into the Nirbhaya rape case, that was a very heinous, a very gruesome kind of crime. For that particular thing, death penalty can be given. So in the rarest of the rare case, in a very few cases, death penalty will be given. Now guys, here it has also been provided by the Supreme Courts that for arriving at a conclusion that whether the death penalty should be given or not, aggravating and mitigating circumstances are needed to be seen. Now we'll see that what is the meaning of this aggravating and the mitigating circumstance. Okay, so I will just discuss it in a few minutes. Moreover, Supreme Court has also provided this particular thing very clearly, that when you are arriving that whether a case will be coming into the rarest of the rare category, okay, the offenders, the one who has done the crime, that person's socio-economic background, the state of mind, all these particular things are also to be seen. Just you cannot see the crime. Okay, you need to see the conditions of the person also who had committed a crime. So all these particular things are to be seen, and only then the rarest of the rare only then death penalty can be decided. So this is all the kind of things that have been provided. Okay, now guys, understand this particular thing. Basically up till now we are just doing the background. Okay, now one more thing I am telling you, just for your sake of information, guys, that this particular information that we have discussed, as well as the information that we had discussed earlier, it's not given in the article which has been published. So therefore, you please make sure that either you download this PDF or you note down these particular backgrounds. Okay. Now, basically, guys, understand that whenever a case goes in this particular trial, there are aggravating circumstances and mitigating circumstances that are considered. Now, what are the aggravating circumstances? Aggravating circumstances refers to the factors that increases the severity or culpability of a criminal act. For example, guys, I'll just give you a hypothetical situation and then you'll understand this particular thing more effectively. Let's say this is a person, Mr. X. Now Mr. X has been accused that he has done a murder. Mr. X has been accused that he has done a murder. Now the case is going on. So obviously there will be the prosecution, and let's say there is a lawyer, and the lawyer is prosecuting this particular person. The lawyer will say that this person has surely committed this murder, and this particular person has done this particular murder in cold rage. This person has a long criminal history. This particular person always does this kind of a thing. He's a serial killer. He is a repeated offender. Okay, so this particular lawyer, is presenting such kind of arguments against this person, that this person always does such kind of a thing. He's a serial killer. He basically does such kind of a thing in cold rage and all such kind of a things. Now, what we call these things? We call these things as aggravating circumstances. So these are those factors that increases the severity of a particular crime. So obviously, when the opposing lawyers are there, they will tell more of these aggravating circumstances. Are you getting? And then there are the next one, that is the mitigating circumstances. Now mitigating circumstances are basically, now see what will happen. This particular person who was accused, he will also be given an opportunity that also you also tell your side of the story. This particular person, let's say it has been proved that yes, this person has committed a murder. Now this particular person will tell that at that point of a time, I was not in my emotional state of mind was very much disturbed. I was not in my senses. I belong to a very poor family, and let's say I am the only breadwinner of my family. If you punish me, if you give me death penalty, what will happen of my family? So the mitigating circumstances, this particular person will give the mitigating circumstances, that please don't give me death penalty, give me less punishment. So there are the aggravating circumstances that are put. Now aggravating circumstances are being put by the prosecution. Okay, the opposite lawyer will be putting these aggravating circumstances, and then mitigating circumstances are to be told by this particular person who has been accused or the person's lawyer. Okay, this is something that happened. Now guys, the Supreme Court comes in between. Okay, so this is all the background. I hope that you have understood this background, because if you know this background, then only you will be able to make sense of these two articles that we have seen. Okay, now let's see that what the Supreme Court has now said. Now the Supreme Court has provided, basically Supreme Court has referred to the Constitution bench, very important matter. Now first of all, what do we mean by Constitution bench? So basically guys, the Supreme Court bench in which minimum 5 judges will be there. That particular bench is called as the Constitution bench. So the question has been offered to the Constitution bench that how to provide a person who has been accused of a how to provide a person who has been accused of a death penalty a meaningful, real and effective hearing of the mitigating circumstances. Now what they word using, how to provide them opportunity so that a meaningful hearing of the mitigating circumstances can be given before a trial judge. Now what's the issue? Basically guys, it has been provided that actually giving an opportunity to a person to put forward his mitigating circumstances, it is a valuable right. Okay, it is a fundamental right. Everybody should be given an opportunity to put forward their mitigating circumstances. Now the Supreme Court has provided that actually what's happening in some cases, the sentence hearing happens on the same day of the order of conviction. Now there are two words that has come here in between. Let's understand them. Number one is the order of conviction and number two is the sentence hearing. Now suppose let's take this particular situation only as we have taken. Now the case was going on and it was accused that this person has committed a murder. Now let's say the Supreme Court has ruled that yes, this person has actually committed a murder. So when the Supreme Court has given the decision, we call it as a conviction. We call it as a conviction. Okay. Now after the conviction, Supreme Court, the judge or the court will be telling that what punishment is to be given. What punishment is to be given. So after the conviction, there is the sentence. After the conviction, then there is a sentence hearing. In sentence hearing, the punishment will be given. Okay, now what happens? These both the things are happening on the same day. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that the process right now that we follow into the court is such that actually only when the sentence is being given, it is being said that only when the sentence is being given, the mitigating circumstances will be put forward by the person who has been convicted. I hope you are able to understand this thing. Now he will be given the opportunity to put forward the mitigating circumstances. Now the Supreme Court has provided that actually it is a kind of a formality that is happening. Right now I told you what is happening. On the same day the conviction is given and on to the same day the sentence hearing happens. So what happens? Just let's say just the judge, any trial court judge had ruled that a person has done a crime. After 5 minutes, he will be given the punishment. Basically, mitigating circumstance hearing, it is just a formality. Okay, just in 5-10 minutes this entire process is completed. So therefore it has been said that when you are not giving the complete opportunity to tell the mitigating circumstances, the people's right is being violated. So therefore now the Supreme Court has referred to the Constitution bench that what we need to do in this particular circumstances. Constitution bench will tell what process needs to be followed. Is it clear or not? So therefore now the Supreme Court had said that a uniform approach has to be molded. A uniform approach has to be brought so that to afford the accused a fair opportunity to present the mitigating circumstances, at the trial stage before their crime is declared the rarest of the rare. Now see, I told you that now mitigating circumstance opportunity is given after the conviction. Now the Supreme Court say that no, not after the conviction, give them opportunity earlier. Okay, so before declaring a case as the rarest of the rare case, you need to give them the opportunity. So basically guys, now the present thinking that is coming, it's that we are moving towards the view that the court, before giving a status of a rarest of the rare case, or before giving the punishment, should call the reports from the jail authorities, should call the report from the probation officers, should also be taking the consultation from the trained psychologist. Okay, and then the mitigating factors are to be considered. Is it clear or not? Now what will happen? The Constitution bench in few days time might be coming out with the new guidelines, and under these new guidelines the trial court has to follow a comprehensive investigation into the factors. For example, what was the upbringing of a person, what was the education background of a person, socio-economic condition of a person, and only after considering these particular factors the punishment is to be given. Is it clear or not? Now understand one more thing I want to tell you here, that guys, actually after the Machi Singh case, okay, the Machi Singh case that we have discussed here, okay, the Machi Singh case. Now in the Machi Singh case, it was already provided that you need to consider the socio-economic profile of that person, education, etc., but actually it was not happening. Okay, so the opportunity of mitigating circumstances, that was being given just after the conviction, and it was just been a formality. Now these particular things are being solved. Is it clear or not? So guys, this is going to be a very, very important reform into the death penalty jurisprudence in India. Okay, very important reform. Now one more thing I want to tell you here. Okay, just if I put this entire controversy in 10 seconds, okay, what actually had happened? Two type of aggravating circumstances, mitigating circumstances. Aggravating circumstances will be put by the opposite lawyer. He will tell that okay, how this person is a serial offender and all such kind of a thing. Then mitigating circumstances opportunity is given to a person who has been accused. He'll tell that okay, please show some leniency. Is it clear or not? So for providing them basically for providing them a fair opportunity to put forward the mitigating circumstances, okay, now the Supreme Court is asking, this is that has happened. Now we'll move to the next article. Okay, so guys, the next article that we has taken, it talks about the Scandinavian social democracy. Scandinavian social democracy. Now, before going in this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, fine, the models of democracy. Okay, now I will first of all tell you little bit of a background of this article, and after understanding the background, we'll be further be seeing this particular article as what it's talking about. Now, see what has happened. Just the elections in the Sweden has concluded. The elections into the Sweden has been concluded, and in the Swedish election that has been concluded, what had happened? Okay, the Sweden elections that has been concluded, what has happened? Basically, the rightist political parties have come to the victory. The rightist political parties have come to the victory, and the parties which were inclined towards the social democracy, now they have faced a kind of a loss. Okay, so the political parties, for example, when we talk about the Sweden Democrats, now when we talk about the Sweden Democrats, okay, so basically the Sweden Democrats, though they have got a large, they had got a pretty big number of seats, but actually they will not be able to form the majority. Okay, so the rightist political parties might be forming the majority into the Sweden. So Scandinavian model of social democracy is now being discussed. Now understand this particular thing. That, see, you don't need to go in this particular article and track this particular thing, which political party won how many of the seats, who will be forming the majority, what type of coalition will be formed, which parties will be into that coalition. No, strict big no, you don't need to go into that particular thing, because for exam point of view, such kind of things are not important. Is it clear or not? So we need to see the model of social democracy that is being followed into the Scandinavian countries. That is the academic issue in this particular article. Okay, so let's discuss this particular article. So basically guys, when we talk about the different countries, they follow the different models of development. For example, there is you see that there is a free market model. There is free market model. Now the free market, just a minute, free market model, it is also called as the laissez-faire system. It is, just a minute, free market model, it's also called as the laissez-faire system. Now in this particular system, the government gives a free hand to the corporates. Government give a free hand to the corporates as they want, find they can come out with their policy. Okay, there is a free market countries. Now in this particular direction, you have the example of US. Okay, you have the example of the USA. After that, there is the socialistic countries. There are the socialistic countries. Now the socialistic nations are the ones where the government has the supreme power. Okay, whatever policy matters are to be decided, that will be taken by the government. Okay, and here you have the example of the erstwhile USSR. Okay, the USSR, that is erstwhile USSR, before 1991 we have USSR. So USSR was a socialistic country. And if you talk about the China also followed a brand of socialism before. Now see, even today China is highly inclined towards the socialism, but before 1978 the socialistic model was followed to core in the China. After 1978, China has diluted their socialism, because in 1978 China started with the open door policy. So in India, as we came out with the LPG in 1991, so similarly the LPG of China is called as open door policy. They came out with that in 1978. Okay, so free market economies are there, socialistic economies are there, and then there are some other aberrations. Okay, there are the countries which follow the balance of both. Okay, they follow the free market also, as well as at the same time they follow the socialistic model also. So there are the ones which follow in middle. They try to follow a balance of both. Now in this particular direction, we have some important models. Number one, we can see a model that is followed in the Latin America. Okay, now in the Latin America, the countries such as the Venezuela, Bolivia, okay, and recently Chile. Now they are following the democratic socialistic model. They are following the democratic socialistic model. Now what is this democratic socialistic model? Basically guys, they want to address inequality. They want to address inequality. okay, and all such kind of problems. Okay, they want to make sure that everybody is given the fair share of resources, concentration of wealth needs to be avoided, inequality is needed to be avoided, and all those particular things will be carried through the democratic institutions. All these particular things will be carried through the democratic institutions. Okay, so we can see this particular thing. Fine. So these countries are seeking to achieve a socialistic goal of redistribution and restructuring of economy. Okay, so they are going for redistribution, means concentration of wealth should not be there, resources should be given to everybody. So redistribution and restructuring, fine, of the formal democratic and liberal institutions, fine, and they want to address the inequalities, okay, in vastly unequal and elite driven systems. So understand these particular things, that when we talk about these Latin America countries, for example Bolivia, Venezuela, there have been inequalities which have been rampant into the past. Now they are trying to correct that particular thing, and they have brought the democratic socialism. Now guys, in India also we follow a brand of democratic socialism. Now what is India's brand of democratic socialism? It is a little bit different. India's brand of democratic socialism means that in India both public and private sector will go hand in hand. Both public and private sector will work at the same time in order to remove the poverty, in order to bring the growth, in order to remove the ignorance of the people and all such kind of things. Now guys, coming to the Scandinavian model. Now the Scandinavian countries, they have been called as a social democracies. Scandinavian countries, they have been called as a social democracies. Now what are these social democracies? Let's understand them. So basically it has been provided that in these countries there is a reliance on the representative and participatory democratic institution where separation of power is ensured. Is you get clear or not here? So basically there are the democratic institutions, and these particular democratic institutions, there will be the participate into these particular democratic institutions, there will be a separation of powers that will be ensured. Okay, number one thing. After that, these democratic institutions, now see, USA also is having the democratic institution, okay, but USA's democracy, fine, is different. In the Scandinavian, the democracy, Scandinavian countries, the democracy is different. They are called as a social democracies. It means they give a lot more emphasis on people welfare. They give lot more emphasis on the social welfare. You'll understand those things as we'll read this particular article. So basically, in the social democracies, there will be democratic institutions, there will be the separation of power, but at the same time, a lot more attention focus will be given on the social welfare schemes. More emphasis will be on there, on the social services, child care, fine, education, research, fine, and all these particular things funded by the progressive taxation. What will happen? The corporate sector or the people who are earning high, on them high taxes will be imposed. From those taxes, whatever money will be brought, that particular money will be invested on these social services, education, child care, etc. After that, there are also the strong labor market institutions, which make sure that the laborers' right are not being compromised. The corporates are making sure, are giving the all basic entitlements to the laborers. Okay, there are also the active labor unions. Fine. Now, guys, at the same time, there is also the employer association. Employers are also being created in association, trade unions are also there, and it leads to a significant collective bargaining. Now see, when the workers are not organized into the unions, they are not able to go for collective bargaining. They cannot put forward themselves as a force, and often what happened, the traders, they are subjugated, their rights are not respected. So basically collective bargaining capacity is given to the workers when they are organized in trade unions. And into the Scandinavian countries, a lot of emphasis is given to make sure that there are the active trade unions in that particular country. Now after that particular thing, there is also active wage negotiation, okay, coordination and active role, and there is a kind of a coordination by the government also. So basically the employer, the employee, and the government, okay, all of them are making sure that there is an active coordination on governance, public policy, and all such kind of factors. Now understand this particular thing, that when we talk about these countries, they follow a capitalist model of development also at the same time. Now see, when we talk about the socialistic countries make sure that the focus on people are there, but at the same time the private property they are not given a lot of importance, capitalists they are not given a lot of importance. In the Scandinavian countries, though social sector is very important, but at the same time capitalist model of development is also being followed. Entrepreneurism is being promoted by the government there. Now, when we talk about many of the important facilities, many of the important entitlements, education is free in all the Nordic states. Okay, healthcare is free in Denmark and Finland. Healthcare is free into the Denmark and Finland. It's partially free. It means it is subsidized in the Norway, Sweden, and Iceland. Okay, so in Denmark and Finland, healthcare is completely free. However, in Norway, Sweden, and Iceland, it's subsidized. Then workers get several benefit. Fine, for example, unemployment insurance is given to the workers. Okay, old age pensions are given to the worker. Child care is supported. Now, guys, see, child care, making sure that the child care is being given. Now, this particular thing has increased the labor force participation rate into the Nordic countries, into the Scandinavian countries. So labor force participation rate are highest in these Scandinavian countries, even among the women. Why? Because guys, see this thing, child care, it happens to be a very important responsibility of the parents, and parents many number of times, because of this particular responsibility of the child care, are not able to go for work. For example, the mothers, on them the care burden is disproportionately high. But in the Denmark, but into the Scandinavian country, government is providing the free child care. So by that thing, the parents can resume the work. Now after that, this particular thing, guys, you understand this thing, that Scandinavian countries, fine, they have also carried the privatization, deregulation of their economy. Okay, so the deregulation of the industry happened, privatization of public services happened till 1970s. But at the same time, Scandinavian countries has also made sure that welfare, taxation, okay, they have made sure that they should retain the emphasis on welfare, taxation, investment. It has also provided that, because the Scandinavian countries had went for the liberalization, privatization, decentralization, but at the same time many of the important things, for example healthcare, they kept it with themselves, education they kept with themselves. Okay, because of this particular thing, there are the significant outcomes into many developmental factors. If I tell you, onto the human development index, recently the Norway has ranked second amongst all the countries of the world. Now understand this particular thing, that when basically understand this particular thing, that when government is giving too much of the focus, okay, when the government is giving too much of the focus on these particular things, what happened, even the development is coming in these particular countries, even the industrial growth is coming. Okay, and all such kind of things is happening. Fine. Now after that, the social democratic model, fine, in the Nordic countries, okay, it's also has successful because of the homogeneous populations that's there. Now the populations are not very much different, they are homogeneous, same kind of cultures and all such kind of things has been followed there. Okay, fine. So because of these homogeneous cultures also, the same thing has happened. Okay, now guys, after that, okay, so these basically homogeneous populations have also helped. Then there is a corporatist model. Now I have already told you corporatist model. What happens here, basically the capitalist, labor class, and the government all are coming together, and the interest of all, that is the capitalist class, the labor, the government, everybody's interest are being taken care of. Is it clear or not? So therefore guys, what has happened in the Scandinavian countries, what has happened, all the developmental factors have come. Okay, these countries transitioned from agrarian to manufacturing, from manufacturing to service. Okay, and the job growth that has happened is because everybody has contributed equally, government, laborers, capitalists. Okay, and because of all these particular things, the Scandinavia happens to be a kind of an important example. Is it clear or not? So this is all about this particular article. Fine guys, I hope that you have understood this entire issue. So a very good kind of a very good kind of a depth has been given onto the Scandinavian model, because when we talk about all the time these countries are at the forefront. Fine, so that is all guys about it, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Okay, so I'll just be taking some of the doubts that has come here. Okay, 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 fine. Democratic socialist is different from social democracy. Democratic socialist is different from social democracy. Fine, little bit difference is there. Okay, when we talk about the social democracy, when we talk about the democratic socialism, it means that public and private sector both will be taking going in hand. Okay, what are the Scandinavian countries? Okay, so Scandinavian countries, they are the group of countries in which you have the countries such as the Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland. When these countries we talk about them, we call them as Scandinavian group of countries. Okay, now moving into the next. ECI, Election Commission of India, seeks restriction on the cash donations to parties. Fine. Now, basically, guys, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, electoral reforms. GS paper number 2, electoral reforms. GS paper number 2, electoral reforms. Okay, now what this particular article is talking about, this article is talking about the recent election commission of India's recent election commission of India's suggestion that they have given in order to curb the black money that flows into the election process. So this is a very important article with respect to the topic of electoral reforms, which will be coming in GS paper number 2. Now guys, before going in this particular article, I will tell you some of the background, and this particular background we are going to use in any question which comes onto the electoral reforms. So understand this particular thing, that guys, when we talk about a democracy, okay, when we talk about a democracy, what's the most important pillar of a democracy? Free, fair and transparent elections. Okay, free, fair and transparent elections are the pillar of democracy. Now guys, when we talk about the fair elections means that the muscle power and money power needs not to be utilized into the elections. But when we talk about India, in India, there is a lot of muscle power that is used into the elections. And because of that particular thing, the criminalization of politics has been a big nuisance into the Indian elections. Now, when we talk about the criminalization of politics, just to give you the data, as per the data given by the Association of Democratic Reforms, 43% of the MPs into the present Lok Sabha, 43% of the MPs into the present Lok Sabha, they are facing the criminal charges, and out of that 29% of the MPs, they are facing the serious criminal charges such as the rape, murder, etc. Okay, so because of the muscle power, criminalization of politics happens, and because of the money power, what happens, basically the people who don't have money, they are not able to contest the elections. Only the wealthy people, the people who had earned money many number of times by the corruption, they are able to get the entry into the election. So the honest, okay, so the honest law abiding citizens are not able to contest elections because a lot of money that's involved. Okay, so basically all these particular things, what it's impacting the fairness of the electoral process in India, and which is impacting the realization of a democracy in India. So therefore, as a part of electoral reforms, we always try to clean the election process. Now guys, when we talk about the election, we know that a lot of black money, okay, lot of dirty money also in many number of times flows into the elections. Is it clear or not? Now, in order to clean this black money's source, the Election Commission of India has given some of the suggestions. Now, first of all, let's see that what suggestion Election Commission of India has given, and then we'll see what will be the impact of these particular suggestions. Okay, so basically, as per the present rules, political parties have to disclose the source of donations which are above 20,000 rupees through the contribution report that they submit to Election Commission. So basically, all the donations that are above 20,000 rupees, their source is to be told to the Election Commission by the political parties. It simply means that if a donation of less than 20,000 rupees is there, it can be shown as an anonymous donation. You need not to tell who contributed that money, whether it was contributed some by corporate or by some individual person. No. So 20,000 rupees is the limit right now. Now the Election Commission of India, they have suggested that we need to reduce this particular cap. So we need to reduce the anonymous political donation to 2,000 rupees from the 20,000 rupees cash that is there. Moreover, guys, it has been provided that the 20%, now the political parties, they are also accepting a lot of cash. Fine, they are accepting a lot of cash. So political parties donation can be given in cash, they can be given in the form of electronic transfer, check, etc. So it has been also provided that cash donation should be at 20% or at maximum of 20 crores. Okay, so let's say a political party, let's say there is an XYZ political party. So in the cash they can accept either the 20% of their total funding or maximum 20 crore rupees. Maximum 20 crore rupees or 20% of their funding should be in cash, not more than that. Because guys, we know this particular thing that black money flows in cash. Black money flows in cash. So therefore, as the cash donations are being taken, black money is indirectly following in the election processes. Now, why these particular proposals have been given? These proposals have been given by the Election Commission of India to bring the transparency into the donations which are being received by the political parties. According to the Election Commission of India, it will cleanse the elections from the black money. Is it clear or not? So just guys, in a nutshell, what has happened? The Election Commission of India has suggested that anonymous donations limit needs to be reduced from 20,000 rupees to 2,000 rupees. All the donations that have been received which are above 2,000, the political parties need to tell the source from where this particular money is coming. This is the reform that has been suggested. Okay, now guys, I want to tell you one more concept beyond the scope of this particular article. Okay, let's move and let's take some other informations also. Even if this particular reform gets implemented, okay, first of all, I want to ask you that if this reform gets implemented, do you think that the black money that is flowing into the elections, that particular thing will come down? Okay, I just want to ask you, please reply. Okay, all the live students, please reply fast. Do you think that if this particular reform gets implemented, the black money that is flowing into the elections, it will be reduced? Okay, I'm waiting for your comments. Okay, please comment fast. Now, see this particular thing, guys, that actually there is one more issue that goes on the sideline. That is the issue of electoral bonds. Okay. Now, what's this electoral bond issue? Okay. So basically, guys, the electoral bond, basically the government has introduced the electoral bond scheme. Under this electoral bond scheme, what actually is the case? So basically, the electoral bonds. Now, what are these electoral bonds? First of all, let's understand. Electoral bonds, these are the interest-free banking instruments. Okay, they can be bought at the specified branches of the State Bank of India. They can be bought at the multiples of 1,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh or 1 crore rupees. And all the money that is being given through the electoral bonds, these donations will be anonymous. Now let's understand that how this particular process works. Okay, let's understand that how this particular process works. Now see, suppose I am a criminal. Okay, and I had a lot of money. Okay, and I had a lot of money, a bag full of money I am having. Now what I'll do? Okay, suppose I'm a criminal and I'm having a lot of money. I will go to the bank. And in the bank, I will buy an electoral bond. Let's say I buy an electoral bond of 1 crore rupees. I will give this particular bond. Now this bond is a piece of paper, okay, and a value will be written. For example, 1 crore rupees. I will go and will give this electoral bond to the XYZ political party. Now what this XYZ political party will do? The XYZ political party will deposit again this electoral bond into their bank account, okay, in their bank account. And as the check is cleared, you deposit the check, you get the money in your bank account. The same way, this XYZ political party will deposit this electoral bond and this bond will be redeemed. 1 crore rupees will be deposited in their bank account. Now understand what's the problem. Now on this particular electoral bond that has been bought by me, there is no reference of my name. This entire money will be the anonymous funding that will go to the political party. And the political party will also, when you ask that, okay, how you got this 1 crore rupees, they will also say that we don't know how we got this 1 crore rupee. It was an anonymous funding. So guys, understand this particular thing, that actually even if this Now, the money is coming to the political party by multiple channels. Directly you can donate, or you can donate by the electoral bonds. Now, what Election Commission of India is asking in this particular matter, is that the money that is directly coming to the political party, in that the anonymous limit needs to be reduced from 20,000 to 2,000, but still anonymous funding will still come to the political party. How? By the electoral bonds. Okay, this is one particular thing. Now guys, one conceptual thing I want to tell you, that when the electoral bonds are to be bought, I need to do the payment by check, or I need to do payment by the account transfer. That is one particular case that is there. Are you getting it or not? So that is one particular thing. Now guys, understand that when we talk about the electoral bond, in 2017, the Election Commission has provided that the electoral bonds, they have expressed their concern against the electoral bonds. They said that anonymous funding will come, and often what will happen, basically the money will flow to the government in expectation of some kind of a favorable return. In the Supreme Court, there have been the multiple petitions that have been filed against the electoral bonds. Now, opposition parties had said this particular thing, that electoral bond schemes allow large anonymous donation to political parties, and these anonymous donations that are coming, they will undermine the democracy. Is it clear or not? Moreover, guys, it has been provided that by these particular anonymous donations, what will happen, the corporate will give a lot of funding to the political party. Okay, and actually, you see, what happens, on the face of it, this entire mechanism is anonymous, but the ruling party will know actually who has donated them the money. Why? Because guys, you see, from where you can receive the anonymous donation anonymous, from where you can buy the electoral bonds can be bought from the State Bank of India, and State Bank of India is a government bank. It comes under the control of both the Reserve Bank. It comes under the control of Reserve Bank of India, and within the Reserve Bank of India, there are the government representatives. Okay, the representatives of government, representatives of finance ministry are there into the RBI. So basically, suppose I had given by check the money to the SBI and has asked an electoral bond. On the electoral bond, my name will not be there, but the ruling party can know that actually who had donated them. This is an unfair advantage only to the ruling party. So because of that particular thing, it has been said that this electoral bond scheme, it has many of the problems. So guys, when we talk about the anonymous funding, it will still go into the political party. How? By the electoral bond. Right now, the matter whether electoral bond are legal or not, that is within the Supreme Court. Up till now, Supreme Court has not given a judgment. That matter is there. So as and when the Supreme Court will rule on that matter, will come to know. Okay, so this is guys the entire issue. So you see this particular thing, that actually these issues are coming in fragmented manner in the newspapers, but we, in order to understand, should be able to connect these pieces together. Okay, now moving to the next article. Now, this particular article we have taken from the editorial section, the hijab case and essential practice doctrine, and there is one more article that has come into the Hindu newspaper. Can state impose limits on the students' fundamental right in classroom? Asks Supreme Court. Okay, so both of these articles have been clubbed here, and we'll see this particular issue. Now, guys, first of all, this particular issue will be seen. With respect to the GS paper number 1 as well as GS paper number 2, issues of secularism. Is it clear or not? Now, moving on. If bonds are taken by account transfer or check, then person will get exposed. Okay, see, I am giving check to the State Bank of India. State Bank of India knows the electoral bond that will be issued. On that, there is no name. Okay, and that electoral bond of no name will be given to political party. So political party will also say that, okay, we don't know from where the money came. Is it clear or not? So the anonymous funding will still be there. Clear? Now, coming to this particular article. Okay, so the hijab case, we will see this particular issue with respect to the issues of secularism, GS1 and GS paper number 2. Now guys, actually what's happening right now, the Supreme Court is hearing one particular case, that is the case with respect to the case with respect to the validity of the Karnataka High Court judgment. Karnataka High Court judgment. I'll tell you first of all the background so that you can understand this particular issue. So basically, guys, in the Karnataka, there was a controversy started. What happened? Actually, in some of the educational institutions, girls were not allowed to wear the hijab. Girls were not allowed to wear the hijab. It was said that it is a violation of the uniform. It is the violation of the uniform. Then that particular matter reached to the Karnataka High Court. The matter reached to the Karnataka High Court. The girls said that we have the fundamental right to express, and as a matter of our fundamental right to express, we should be allowed to wear the hijab. Now, the Karnataka High Court also provided, the Karnataka High Court said that as the essentiality doctrine, as per the essentiality doctrine, as per the essentiality doctrine, the schools or the educational institution, if they want to regulate the hijab wearing, they can do that particular thing. If they don't want to allow the girls to wear the hijab, they might ban that particular thing. So Karnataka High Court had said that educational institution can decide what to allow, what not to allow in terms of attire, in terms of dress, and hijab can therefore be regulated. This was given by the Karnataka High Court. This was given by the Karnataka High Court. Now this particular matter has reached to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is hearing this particular entire issue. So this, all these things are the background. Now let's go into this editorial. Clear? Now guys, understand this particular thing that a kind of a bunch of different issues have come before the Supreme Court. Now, what the Supreme Court is actually hearing? So, Supreme Court is hearing, number one, that whether by banning the hijab in the schools, it impacts the right of students to freedom of expression. Now, guys, the article number 19 of the Indian Constitution, article number 19 of the Indian Constitution has given the right to express, and the way I wear, the way I dress, all these things are the way of my self expression. So this article number 19 is getting violated, number one. Number two, it has been said that it also violates the right to religion, right to conscience, right to conscience. Okay, now already in the constitution, article number 25 to 28 are there. Now article 25 to 28 provides the right to religion, in that the right to conscience has also been given, and as a matter of my conscience, if my conscience wants me to wear a particular type of attire, to wear a hijab, fine, I should be allowed to wear that. Fine. And after that particular thing, it has been provided that it is also impacting the right to education of the Muslim women. Now the right to education has been given in the article number 21A of the Indian Constitution. What is the case? Actually, basically, for when we talk about, guys, the when we talk about the Islamic communities, okay, so basically the law, okay, the Islamic law, they, it doesn't differentiates between the private and the public life. Okay, the faith is very much integral to the Islamic communities, and the faith is to be the faith manifests itself in private sphere, in public sphere. Fine, they cannot have the dual identities. Okay, so basically wearing a hijab is very important, and if that thing will not be allowed, many of the girls might not be allowed even to come to the schools, might not be allowed to come to the schools if they are not allowed to wear the hijab. So their right to education is getting violated, their article number 21A is getting violated. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that actually in this particular entire matter, there is a doctrine of essential practice that comes in between. Now let's understand that what is this doctrine of essential practice. Now for the first time, okay, I am telling you the background here, and it is very, very important. Okay, it's very, very important. Now the doctrine of essential practice. So basically this doctrine was first propounded by a speech that was given by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said that a state should be allowed to intervene into the matters that are connected to religion but are not intrinsically religious. Now very, very, very impactful line. Again, I'll repeat it. State should be allowed to intervene in the matter that are connected to religion but are not intrinsically religious. So what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar proposed a constructive balance between the religion and between the state. So it provided the state should be allowed to intervene into the matters connected to religion, but the matters which are completely religious, in that the state should not be allowed. Now, on the basis of this particular Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's idea, on the basis of this particular idea, the Supreme Court in the Shirur Mutt case of 1954, the Supreme Court into the Shirur Mutt case of 1954 came with the doctrine of essentiality. It came with the doctrine of essentiality. Now, what's this doctrine of essentiality? It provided that, see, Supreme Court can now see any religion, it has two type of practices associated with that. One are the essential practices and other are the non-essential practices. Now, what are the essential practices? These are those core practices which have to be very integral to a religion, and if these practices are not there, religion will not cannot be practiced. Core practices which form the identity of a religion, they are called as essential practices. Non-essential practices are those practices which are being followed but they are not the core part of a religion. For example guys, let's say that when we talk about, for example, the Buddhism, we have seen that Buddhism has evolved a lot after the Buddhas. After the Buddha, the Buddhism has evolved a lot. Many new practices got added to the Buddhism. Now, these new practices that are getting added to the Buddhism, they might not be the original practices. They might not be intrinsic to the religion. So, such kind of a practices, now not only Buddhism, every religion, such kind of a practices are called as a non-essential practices. Fine. Now, it has been provided that the Supreme Court can regulate these non-essential practices. It cannot regulate the essential practices. Why? Because of article number 25 to article number 28, right to religion has been given. If these essential practices will be curbed, obviously now I told you, without the essential practices religion cannot exist, so the religion will be violated. Fine. So Supreme Court, what it can regulate, what it can regulate, as well as the government, what it can regulate, keep in mind very clearly, only the non-essential practices. Is it clear or not? So this is the test of essentiality that came. Now guys, I want to give you one example to demonstrate this particular thing. Now the Sabrimala case of 2018. Now Sabrimala Shrine, the Sabrimala Shrine, it is a shrine in Kerala dedicated to Lord Ayappa. So the women were not allowed the entry in the Sabrimala Shrine. Okay. Now a petition was filed that when the women are not being allowed in the Sabrimala Shrine, it leads to the violation of the women's right to religion, and also it is violating of right to equality. Now what had happened in the Sabrimala case, the Supreme Court ruled that the bar on entry of the women, fine, in the age group of 10 to 50 was not an essential practice. Okay, so as it is not an essential practice, the ban is not an essential practice. Supreme Court can regulate that, and therefore Supreme Court said that the women are allowed. So Supreme Court said that the women are allowed, they can go. Okay. Now coming in this particular matter of hijab. So what Karnataka High Court has done, Karnataka High Court has actually used this doctrine of essentiality. The Karnataka High Court has actually used the doctrine of essentiality, and it has provided that wearing of hijab is a non-essential practice. And as it is a non-essential practice, schools can regulate that, educational institutions can regulate that. If they don't want, they might not allow the women to wear the hijab because it is a non-essential practice. This is something that has been provided. Now, Karnataka High Court has basically provided, number one, it is a non-essential practice. Number two, there is no substantive right of freedom of expression or privacy inside a classroom. So the Karnataka High Court had said that the classroom is a special place. Okay. Now classroom is a special place, and there the right to freedom of expression can be curtailed. Okay. Right to privacy can be curtailed because it is a public place, not a private place. And third, I told you that it has uh, been criticized that basically the Muslim women are particularly being targeted. Now, the Karnataka High Court had said this particular thing, that this particular ban did not stem directly out of government order. Government did not order anything. Basically, there is an idea of a uniform dress code. Now uniform dress code will bring equality. Karnataka High Court said that we want to bring a uniform dress code, and in pursuance of that particular uniform dress code, special type of headgear such as the hijab are being banned. So therefore it has been provided that actually law is not discriminating specifically with the Muslim students. We want to bring a uniform dress code, so it is not targeted to one particular community. So therefore, on all these particular logic, the Karnataka High Court has given the ruling, and into the essentiality test they have declared declared that the hijab practices are non-essential. Now this particular matter has reached to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is seeking all these particular things. Fine. Now it has been provided that Supreme Court should be able to decide these questions onto the basis of constitutional law, the freedom of expression, fine, the liberalism that has been core part of the Indian constitution. All these particular things are needed to be taken care of, and then only this particular matter needs to be decided. Now if you read the heading of the other article that actually came here, okay, I'll erase this particular first of all so that you can see it more clearly. Now fine, you can read this particular article's heading. So this article came. Now here, as this particular matter is going into the Supreme Court, Supreme Court is taking the viewpoints. Supreme Court is asking, can state impose limits on the student's fundamental right in the classroom? Asks Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has asked the same thing. Now what Karnataka High Court had said, if you remember the Karnataka High Court, you just please come in this point number, you please come into this particular point number 2, which we have discussed. Point number 2, I'll zoom out. Now the point number 2 says that there is no substantive right. Fine, it says that there is no substantive right of freedom of expression or privacy inside a classroom. Karnataka said that no right of expression in classroom. Now Supreme Court has asked that whether that thing is correct. Can the state impose limits on the students' freedom fundamental right into the classroom? So this is something that is going on. Now guys, this particular matter might be settled in few weeks or few months time. Up till now, nothing has been concluded. Nothing has been concluded. The matter is still going on. So we will see this particular thing, and as and when some decision will come out of that, will further update you on that particular matter. So till then, this is all about it. And now we'll move to the next article. From Lodha to Raman, Chief Justices of Modi era. Clear? Now guys, this particular article, it's talking about the journeys of the chief justices, okay, and all such kind of things. Now we need to see only the academic substance of this particular article, which can be important for the examinations. Is it clear or not? So that academic aspect we need to see. Now let's start with this particular discussion. Now when we talk about the Supreme Court of India, you know that the Supreme Court of India has been one of the most important institution created by our constitution. Now as per the constitution, Indian Supreme Court is even the custodian of the constitution of India. Now guys, by the way, on this exact same line, a question has been asked into the prelims examination. Is it clear or not? Okay. So okay, there is one question in state which is powerful, whether the high court or the state government. See, understand this particular thing, that on practical aspect, fine, there is no matter that who is actually supreme. Nowhere it's provided into the constitution that X is supreme or Y is supreme. Clear? So we cannot say that okay, the state government is supreme, the high court is supreme, because both are bound under the constitution. The nature or the work of both institution is exactly different. The government, for example, it has the work of legislature and executive. In the capacity of legislature, the government will make the law, and in the capacity of executive, it will execute the law, and judiciary will make sure that all the checks and balances are being there. They make sure that the executive and legislature are doing their work in sync of the constitution of India. So understand this particular thing, that matter doesn't even comes that supreme or the high court is supreme or more powerful, or the government is more powerful. The relation is of equals. Both have been given their own set of responsibilities, and this is in fact your outlook that should be reflected in the exam. Is it clear or not? Now when we talk about Indian Supreme Court, it is the custodian of the Constitution of India. Okay, Supreme Court ensures that the fundamental right are granted to the citizens of India. Now you know this particular thing. We have article number 32. Article number 32 talks about the constitutional remedies. Fine. So if your fundamental right are violated, you can directly reach to the Supreme Court under the article 32. Obviously you can reach to the High Court also under the article 226. Fine. So the Supreme Court is the custodian of even of your fundamental rights. Now guys, when we talk about over the decades, the Indian Supreme Court has become one of the most powerful institution, not in India, but in the entire world. Now, when we compare it with the peers, the other Supreme Courts of the other countries, Indian Supreme Court is the most powerful amongst them. How? Three developments have happened into the past. Number one, Keshwananda Bharti case, Keshwananda Bharti judgment of 1973. Now, what was the Keshwananda Bharti case? In the Keshwananda Bharti case, it was provided that the basic structure of the constitution cannot be destroyed. Basic structure of the constitution cannot be destroyed. It cannot be amended. And as a part of basic structure. Now the Supreme Court has also ruled that the judicial review is in fact a basic structure. Judicial review is in fact the basic structure, and by the power of judicial review, the Supreme Court can review any constitutional amendment, Supreme Court can review any law, Supreme Court can review any decision of the legislature, executive, anything can be reviewed by the Supreme Court under the power of judicial review. So the Keshwaranda Bharti case had actually created the foundation by which the Supreme Court became the very powerful institution. Is it clear or not? That is the case. Moreover, guys, recently, just what have happened a few years back, the National Judicial Appointment Commission was brought. Now, the National Judicial Appointment Commission removed the collegium system. So, right now, you know that the members of the Supreme Court as well as High Court, they are appointed via collegium. Okay. Now, that collegium system was removed by the National Judicial Appointment Commission. Supreme Court said that this is unconstitutional. Okay. And how they declared it as unconstitutional? By judicial review of that particular National Judicial Appointment Commission. And judicial review is a power of Supreme Court, and it is even the basic structure of the constitution. So by that, the Supreme Court has become very powerful. After that, guys, understand the Supreme Court has also become again another powerful body by the power of judicial appointments to itself, that is the Supreme Court as well as to the High Court. Now the members of higher judiciary is chosen by judiciary themselves. Member of Supreme Court is being chosen by the Supreme Court collegium. Member of High Court are being chosen by the Supreme Court collegium. So they have an absolute control over the judiciary. So by that, it has become a very powerful institution. Thirdly, Supreme Court has over the period expanded the article number 21, that is right to life and liberty, and many unique rights have been given to the people, and many unique rights have been given to the people from time to time. So by this particular thing also, the Supreme Court has from time to time expressed this particular thing, that how they are one of the most powerful institutions. Is it clear or not? So this is one thing that has happened. Now, guys, I want to add one more point here. I want to add one more point here from my side. There is one more point that you can add, that is Article 142. Article 142. Now, Article 142 provides that the Supreme Court, in order to do complete justice, can pass any order, can pass any decree. Now, by using the Article 142, Supreme Court has issued many orders into the past, okay, including the ban on the liquor shops on the highways. Okay, so Article 142 also gives the unique power to the Indian Supreme Court. Now, guys, when we talk about within the Supreme Court, the most powerful judicial official is the Chief Justice of India. Now, when we talk about the Chief Justice of India, as per the Article 124, CJI as well as other judges of Supreme Court are appointed by the President. Now, when we talk about the CJI, you might be already knowing that the senior most judge of the Supreme Court is appointed as a Chief Justice. Okay, so there is the Memorandum of Procedure, MOP. Okay, there is MOP, that is the Memorandum of Procedure for the appointment of Supreme Court, and as per this MOP, seniority is the norm. Now understand this particular thing, that when a Chief Justice of India is outgoing, for example, recently Justice N.V. Raman retired, so the outgoing Chief Justice will give the suggestion that who should be the next CJI. So the outgoing CJI N.V. Raman, Justice N.V. Raman suggested that Justice U. Lalit should be the next CJI. So the recommendations of the outgoing CJI are also taken, fine, for the appointment of the next CJI. Now, basically, it has been provided that basically once the collegium's recommendations are finalized, now for other judges of Supreme Court, the collegium and the CJI will give their recommendations. Okay, once the CJI and the collegium has given the recommendation for the appointment of other Supreme Court judges, Law Minister will put the recommendations to Prime Minister. Prime Minister will then suggest the President, and the judges will be appointed. Now, in the span of 75 years, in the span of last 75 years, Indian Supreme Court has seen 49 CJIs, and right now the present Chief Justice of India is the 49th CJI. Okay, now the article is saying this particular thing, that actually when we talk about the judiciary is a powerful institution, but guys, often we have find that the executive and judiciary, there is a kind of an invisible tussle. There is a tussle going on between the executive and judiciary, that who is the most powerful, and this particular tussle has went through the waves. Now understand this particular thing, that actually when executive is powerful, the judiciary succumbs to the executive's control. Now you might be knowing that during the time of Indira Gandhi, there was basically we know this particular thing, that actually the the order of precedence of the CJI, the order of precedence of the CJI was broken by the Indira Gandhi. Okay, and the senior most judge was not elevated to the position of CJI. So the seniority norm was broken during the time of the Indira Gandhi government. Is it clear or not? So basically, now why such kind of a thing happened? Because the government under the Indira Gandhi was exceptionally strong government. Is it clear? So when the executive is very powerful, the judiciary comes under the executive control. Now, guys, it has been seen that actually, suppose there is an absolute majority government. If there is an absolute majority government, what will happen? The absolute majority government under that we have seen that the judiciary becomes less powerful. And if there are the coalition governments, if there are the coalition government, then we have seen that the judiciary becomes more powerful. This is the history that we have seen in India. Now, guys, the article says that actually when there are weaker coalition governments, the judiciary's power are restored. Okay, why, guys, understand this particular thing? See, whenever there is a coalition, there will be the different ideologies, and one ideology will not become powerful on the Supreme Court, and by that particular thing, judiciary will be more powerful. That is going to happen. Is it clear or not? Now, another thing, basically, guys, the author has mentioned this particular thing, that since 2014 in India the executive has gained the single part. Now we have the single party majority. Executive has gained so much of power since 2014. Exceptionally strong government, and this exceptionally strong government has diluted the Supreme Court's power. It has been observed. Now the article is saying that actually now after 2014 the judiciary's powers are weaker than before, and executive is back in control. There is a rise in autocratic tendencies find of the executive. There is a slow destruction of democratic institution. Misuse of investigating agencies is going on, CBI, ED. Now these are the views of the author. Okay, now, guys, there is a communal polarization, chipping away of the constitutional protection that is happening. So it has been said that the Supreme Court is today again facing the challenges onto the multiple fronts from the executive, and here it has been provided that we need to have a very strong leadership now who understand that actually Supreme Court has been there to guard the sensibilities of the people, to guard the rights of the people, and such kind of a thing needs to be taken care of. Is it clear? So this is something that's going on. So they have provided that actually the Supreme Court, okay, the Supreme Court's authority, it flows in a cyclical manner. If the government is exceptionally powerful, that is, if an absolute majority government is there, if government is having absolute majority, the Supreme Court's authority will be diluted. However, if a weaker coalitions are there, Supreme Court will become powerful. This is something that is going on, and actually making Supreme Court powerful is important. Why it's important? Because the Supreme Court is the guarantor of the fundamental rights. Supreme Court guarantees the liberties. That is something that is being provided. Okay, so that's all about this particular issue. And then, guys, now, guys, we'll be moving to the next article. Okay, uh, okay, so Devya is asking that class timing. Okay, so, guys, class timing, tentative timing of the classes 7:15 a.m. Okay, however, sometimes it shifts 15 minutes here or there, majorly because of the news articles that are there. So sometimes it takes more time in research, note making, and all these kind of things. Okay, so actually, guys, I don't have anybody else to assist, so as I do these all things fine, so it takes some time. So sometimes there is a 15-20 minute here and there, but tentative time is 7:15. Okay, right now, if it will change, I'll notify that. It is the people of Pakistan who are suffering. It is the people of Pakistan who are suffering. Now, guys, this particular article talks about, this article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, issues of neighborhood. Issues of neighborhood. Okay, so international relations, neighborhood relations, we'll see this particular article. Okay, now, guys, understand, before going in this particular article, what it's talking about, I'll tell you the background. So this article is talking about the Pakistan floods. This article is talking about the Pakistan floods. So recently there are devastating floods that have come into the Pakistan, and in this particular capacity we have seen that nearly 40% of the Pakistan got submerged. So 35 to 40% of the Pakistan has already been submerged under these devastating floods. Now, basically, this particular article, it talks about this article, it says that right now there is a humanitarian act that is to be shown by the India. Okay, now this humanitarian act can be a smart diplomacy that India can take. Now see, Pakistan is suffering, and Pakistan is a neighbor of India, though that neighbor has exported terrorism in India, that is a fact. But at the same time, India has been a responsible neighbor, and India also runs the neighborhood first policy. Neighborhood first policy. And as a part of a neighborhood first policy, and as per the Panchsheel principles of peaceful coexistence, India has always extended a helping hand to the neighbors without any expectation in return. This is the cultural, ethical legacy of India. India being the land of Buddha, India being the land of Gandhi, has always shown compassion, and that compassion is reflected into the India's diplomacy as well. Now India needs to give the humanitarian aid to the Pakistan. Okay, and this humanitarian act can become a smart diplomacy. Okay, now understand that first of all we need to make a distinction between the government of Pakistan and between the people of Pakistan. Now who exports the terrorism? It's the military and government of Pakistan, but the people of Pakistan, they are like us. Okay, these peoples are not who are the enemy of, basically these people are not one, what I want to say, these people are the one who need to be treated on a different pedestal by the government, because many of them are the ones who are innocent and are suffering in this particular crisis. As per the data that has been given, 33 million people are suffering. Fine, 33 million people are suffering. As per the WHO's data that has been given, 6.4 million people need support. 16 million children are in distress, and 3.4 million of them, they need life-saving support. And this data is given by the WHO as well as UNICEF. So these people are suffering, and we need to provide an helping hand to these people. Now guys, understand this particular thing. The Pakistan government has failed to act promptly in this particular crisis. Now see, political leaders are not bothered to call for a ceasefire. Now see, Pakistani leadership, still their people are suffering, but they don't have guts that they can come openly and can ask the government of India the help. The finance minister of Pakistan few days back, and even we have covered this particular article in our newspaper analysis, expressed that we will resume the import from India. Pakistan said that will resume the import of cotton, sugar, and the cotton yarn will be resumed, because the plantation crops in the Pakistan, they have been died. But what happened? The prime minister refused for that particular thing. So the Pakistani government is not able to look with the compassionate hearts towards their own people. The leaders have not been bothered to call for a ceasefire. They are still raising the quarrels with the government. This is a very big issue that's been there. Now what's India's response? India's response is that basically the Indian media has reported that the matter of sending aid to Pakistan has been under discussion. Okay, and that Pakistan has not had asked help for so far. Pakistan is not asking the help, but we are considering still to send the humanitarian aid. Now, till now, Pakistan has not declared its decision on the matter. So, Pakistan needs to show a path of maturity. Pakistan needs to understand that this is a difficult time, okay, and the relation needs to be now. See, when we talk about, guys, the India Pakistan relations, the relations are based on some very wrong assumptions that Pakistan is actually having. Pakistan, in order to promote the interest of China, Pakistan becomes a China's proxy, and is Pakistan furthering China's interest. Pakistan is not able to understand the enlightened self-interest. They don't have enlightened self-interest that what is for their well-being. So now they need to understand that they should come out of this particular impression of China. They need to run their independent self-enlightened policy. Actually, the Pakistan and India's relation became even more problematic after the 2019, when the Article 370 in the Indian Constitution was diluted and the special status of Jammu and Kashmir was taken back. After that, the road traffic that was flowing between the Pakistan and India, it has been closed. Pakistan need to understand that you cannot thrive without the support of your neighbor. And who is the most important neighbor of India? Pakistan. Who is the most important neighbor of Pakistan? India. Now, the Pakistan military derive its immense. The Pakistan military has a lot of political clout. Okay, and now see, there is one saying. It is said that usually the nations have a military. Usually the nations have a military, but into the case of Pakistan, military is having a nation. So Pakistan's military is much powerful institution into the Pakistan. Now how the military will gain its credibility, how it will maintain its importance, it will maintain its importance by inventing the threats from the India that they'll have from time to time. So by that particular thing, the Pakistan military is maintaining its legitimacy. Now understand this particular thing, that it has been provided that though there is a civilian government, but militaries still have a major power right now, and India needs to act further without the delay. Now the United Nations General Secretary General will convene a conference of donors on assistance to Pakistan, and India need to act. It will be a part of a smart diplomacy. So that is all guys about this particular article, and now we'll move to the next article. Okay, so this article, Chhattisgarh High Court nixes quota law, call it's unconstitutional. So guys, this is a brief development which we'll see with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to the reservation. You don't need to go too much in detail. Now see, basically guys, what has happened, the Chhattisgarh High Court has struck down the state government's decision to have a 58% reservation in their state for the recruitment and for entrance examination. Okay, so the Chhattisgarh government was giving 58% reservation to the backward communities in their state. Now this particular law providing 58% reservation has been declared unconstitutional. Why? Because of Indira Sahani case. Now guys, we already have discussed Indira Sahani case, because right now the economically weaker section reservation quota, EWS quota, is going on in the news. Now this EWS quota is going on in that news, so I have explained you entire background of Indira Sahani case. Indira Sahani case provides that the maximum reservation in India should be 50%, not more than 50%. And now what has happened? 58% reservation is being given. 58% reservation is being given. So obviously it has breached the Indira Sahani case's verdict. So therefore the Chhattisgarh High Court has cancelled it. Okay, so that is all. No, nothing to go too much beyond. Okay, nothing to go beyond this particular thing. Now moving on. Oil Ministry seeks review of the windfall tax, wants certain fields exempted. Want certain fields exempted. Now guys, understand this particular thing. Just a minute. So understand this particular thing, that what has happened. We have discussed the entire issue of the windfall tax. Now guys, if you remember, just a minute. Now guys, if you remember, we have discussed this article on 14 September. We have discussed this particular article onto the 14 September newspaper analysis, where we have discussed the windfall tax issue. Okay, now this particular article is again mentioning, the article that has come today, it's again mentioning about the windfall tax. Clear? Now first of all, in order to tell you what the windfall tax is, if you have not seen this particular thing, basically guys, there are some extraordinary some extraordinary profit that a particular corporate enjoys because of some special circumstances. Now for example guys, that suppose you are selling the sanitizer. On the sanitizer you are making a particular profit. Let's say every month you are making 1 lakh rupees profit for the sanitizer. Okay, now what happened when the COVID-19 came? Suddenly the demand of sanitizer increased. Okay, now you can sell the same sanitizer at higher prices. Moreover, you can sell more and more sanitizers. So what will happen? Abnormally high profit will be registered, and this particular profit is called as windfall profit. Now on such kind of a windfall profit, government charges the windfall tax. Government will say that okay, you have earned extraordinary profit. On this extraordinary profit you need to give some additional tax. That is called as the windfall tax. Now guys, recently government has imposed the windfall tax on many of the refineries who are just a minute. So basically guys, in India, when we talk about the petrol and diesel, okay, 82% of India's petrol and diesel requirement is fulfilled by the imports. 82% of requirement is fulfilled by the imports. Is it clear or not? And and we also have our own resources of the oil and gas. Okay, and in that particular capacity we also have our resources of oil and gas, and we have our own refineries. They are extracting the oil, crude oil, and then they are refining it. Now what has happened in the entire world, the prices of the petrol and diesel have increased in the past. Why? Because of the post pandemic recovery. There is a demand of the oil and petrol and diesel right now into the world because of post pandemic recovery. And second is the Russia Ukraine war that is going on now. Russia was a very big exporter of crude oil, but now the Russia is not able to do that. So around the world the crude oil price have increased, and everybody who is extracting the crude oil, they have earned a lot of profit. So therefore the windfall taxes was imposed. Now guys, when we talk about India, we have biggest refineries, and these refineries, many of them, they are importing the crude oil, they refine it, and then they export that finished product. Now obviously they are generating a lot of profit, so on them the windfall tax was imposed. Now guys, the oil ministry have put forward one particular thing. Oil ministry had said that now whatever oil blocks are there in India, these oil blocks have been given to some companies and they are allowed to extract the oil. For example, Reliance have been given the oil blocks. Now when the oil blocks were given to them, the agreement that was designed, in that agreement the windfall taxes were already accounted. And now if you will charge again the windfall taxes, it will put double burden on these particular extractors such as the Reliance. So now the oil ministry is seeking to review the windfall tax and will exempt certain fields. Okay, so this is something that is being provided. Now guys, I will tell you one thing, please listen me very carefully. Guys, in this particular article, that is on the 14th of September newspaper analysis, I have discussed this entire issue of the windfall tax. Okay, from the very scratch I have discussed it. If you have seen this windfall tax, you don't need to go in this particular article. In this article, just one line concept is there. It is being said that already the companies which are extracting the oil, in their agreements windfall taxes were already accommodated. Now if you will impose additional windfall tax, it will put extra burden on them. So now the oil ministry wants that the windfall tax needs to be reviewed and certain fields are to be exempted. This is just one line concept if you understand the windfall tax. Okay, and if you have already understood, I explained it today also, more than sufficient. You don't need to go and read even a single word beyond that. However, if you want to know more about the windfall tax, you can go and watch the 14 September newspaper analysis. There I have explained this entire issue. So last Wednesday, not even 1 week has happened. We have discussed it. So that is all guys about this entire analysis, and I hope that you have understood this entire issue. Is it clear or not? Okay. Sir, I can't find this article. This article is in the business page. Okay, so you go and you'll find. Okay. Now, moving on. So, guys, that is all about the today's newspaper analysis, and with this, we come to an end. I hope, guys, that you are understanding the issues. Okay, and I hope that it is serving the utility for you. So, guys, that is all for today. Thank you so much. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.